Hey, this is Kevin Guyout with Western Hunter Magazine, and behind me here I have the Peax Solitude 4 Tipi tent. This is something brand new to me, and I've got a backpacking hunt coming up in August, and I needed a new tent. One of my favorite parts about backpacking in general, and I haven't done it in a number of years, is all of the really high-tech, cool, innovative gear that's come out. And the shelters and tents that I've had in the past are great, but after setting this up and feeling the weight and simplicity of the system, it's pretty clear it's come a long way, and Peax has put a lot of really thoughtful design features into this setup. So this was my first time setting it up, and I think my goal today was go do a dry run, get it set up, get all the kinks worked out, figure out how I like to set it up. And I tried to find a level spot of ground, and we didn't find the levelest place of ground, and that kind of presented some problems. Also, here in Arizona, we have incredibly hard ground, so getting stakes not in a rock is kind of tricky sometimes. So we wrestled with that for a little bit, but I'm definitely glad that we did have this practice run just to make sure I know exactly how it goes together. And it's actually very simple, but like anything, the first time you do it, you kind of want to have a little bit of practice. So this has a footprint with it, and I like a footprint. It's really a comfort thing in a lot of cases, and if you do happen to get a lot of like rain, it is a nice way to stay a little bit dry. It is kind of a bathtub style footprint, so while it's super light and you don't have to run this teepee with it, it's got a really simple way to cinch and just buckle that footprint to the tent wall. So you do have kind of a bathtub shape to protect from some wind, some moisture, and to have a little bit more of a barrier from some of the perimeter of the tent. The nice part about it is right here in like the vestibule area, you still have bare ground. So you still have a place to put muddy, wet gear, packs, boots, what have you, and keep somewhat of your sleeping area clean. The other really nice thing that we saw inside this tent, and we'll go inside and look at it in a second, is the cutout for the stove. The hunt that I have coming up is in August, so it'll be a pretty warm hunt. We won't need the stove. I will be doing a whole stove break-in, burn-in process later on when I have a hunt that I'm going to be doing that for, but I don't think it's going to be necessary for this. We also have a burn ban here in Arizona, so we can't burn right here in the forest that we're in. Overall, this tent is really like perfect. So it's a 4-man tent. I'm a pretty big dude. I'm 6'1", about 215, and my hunting partner Ben is about the same. So we're gonna make it a 2-man tent and maybe our backpacks. You can definitely fit more guys in there if need be, if you're going ultralight and your space is limited. But for comfort, we don't need to. We've got extra room in our backpacks. Tom can take a 1-man tent, and the other guys will have their own shelters as well. So overall, I'm super stoked with it, and we will let's take a walk around and look at the rest of the tent. We're gonna start with the top here, and I want to show you something with the stove jack that I think is thoughtful for sure. So this stove jack here is something that you can just Velcro on and off. I haven't cut this out yet. You do need to cut this out for that stove to come through there. But the nice part about it is, like a lot of other tents, you have a zippered replaceable lid essentially to put in if you want to run this shelter without a stove. But in this one, it's just a nice convenient flap that Velcros in, something you don't have to lose. And it just definitely keeps a lot of the moisture, debris, and stuff from getting inside your tent. So I definitely like that feature. All the other ones I've seen, it's something that's removable, something you're bound to lose, and that could just be a pain in the butt once it gets to that point. The other really nice feature for the stove is when you are running it, that stove goes right there. You zipper out that part of the floor, so you've got nice bare ground. Obviously, this would not hold up well to a super hot stove when you're making this a hot tent. Just a really slick system, and it doesn't take a huge footprint up in your tent either. So, you could still run, I think, 3 guys plus a stove, 2 guys. You could run 4 guys without a stove, but you could see here the way I have it spaced out. My sleeping bag, sleeping pad. The next best place over here would be like, where Ben will go. Pack up here, boots, bows, whatever, if we need to keep it out of the rain. So I like that design there, and it's right here by the door, and it's right there by that center post, so it's really simple. Something else that I haven't seen before, and I think this might be a patented design, is this Guyout system here, which uses 2 guy lines essentially that you crisscross and comes down to 1 stake. It definitely has a great feel of like pulling these panels in the right direction, so you've got a nice taut material here, and it increases your space all the way out there. And it's nice to just minimize 1 less stake, so I think this whole thing here, this is using 12 stakes. If you want to use these for something, you know, extra, you're using a rock or you're packing a couple extra stakes. But I think for 99% of scenarios, you're not going to need this one. Although I probably will bring an extra stake just in case. It's nice to have it and they weigh nothing. So I also love, especially for an early season hunt that's going to be pretty warm, air ventilation's pretty key. So you've got a vent here that just velcros this little stay, and the same thing exists on the other side. And you can also open up this door here and just get some nice cross ventilation, some airflow, so you're not just totally steamed out in this thing. All right, I'm gonna move down to the line locks. Something else that's really nice. Again, just a sort of something you won't notice, but when we're putting it together, we notice that these essential guy lines on the corners essentially is like really the main ones. There's a ton of adjustment, a ton of material, which is nice. So if you've got like a really hot hunt and you really need a lot of cross ventilation and airflow through this thing to keep it livable at night, you can pitch this thing pretty high and keep a lot of good airflow coming underneath. That's not common in a lot of the tents I've seen. You only get generally half that, so you're kind of restricted to how much room above the ground you can have this. But if I needed to, I could pitch this thing up pretty high, keep this guy line out here. Really would help a lot of that breeze coming through and cool this thing down pretty nice. So I thought that is pretty slick, and we might need it in August. It'll be pretty warm where we're hunting. We'll just see, but it's nice to have that flexibility. Right now, the way it's configured with the footprint, you're looking at 4 pounds, 4 ounces. You can also add a nest to it as well. So a screen, like a mesh screen that would go in if you're hunting in a place that's got a lot of bugs, or if you're just worried about bugs and you don't like that kind of stuff. It adds some weight, adds some space and bulk, but adds a little bit of the creature comforts that you might be looking for too. You can also get this set up in the Dyneema version. So it's about double the price, but this material would all be Dyneema, other than this thing is a nylon of sorts. So it's going to be a lot lighter in that configuration, but yeah, quite a bit more expensive. But if you're an ultralight freak and this isn't light enough for you, that's an option available as well. I think they also offer a half nest. So if you wanted to basically use this as like a one-man setup and you really only need the nest over here because you're over here and you want to keep this stuff more open and you want to run a stove over here, I believe that is something you can do as well. But this configuration that I see here is probably the most relevant and most useful for most guys. It also comes with this carbon fiber center pole. The way I have it adjusted here is pretty much mid-height, but I was showing you earlier, if you wanted to pitch this thing higher to allow for more airflow, you can pitch this thing a heck of a lot higher, or if you needed to suck this thing down for more warmth, you know, you can adjust this all the way down to the bottom. I just think it's nice. They include this really nice carbon fiber pole. It breaks down into nothing, so it wraps up within the shell. This all wraps up into a really nice tight package for your pack. So yeah, pretty slick setup. So something I thought was really cool starting up here is this cross pole setup that they use. So you can use your trekking poles, and it adds a ton of rigidity in a cross-sectional way here to the top of your tent. And as soon as I put those in, it completely stiffened up the rigidity of this thing. And I think it would, I mean, today obviously there's hardly a breeze, but if you were in some pretty big winds, I think it would really help stabilize this thing and keep your tent from being blown around, becoming a mess in the middle of the night. So that's a pretty slick setup. I think it took a little bit of practice getting it in, and I'm pretty sure that I have the thing set up right. I don't know if there's a wrong way to do it, but I also like this because I can hang socks up here at night. I can hang lights. I can hang a lot of things like my gaiters, whatever I need to dry out, and just keep things off the ground. Pretty convenient setup there. The other really slick setup is with this bathroom floor setup, and I'll show you on this side, is to bring this around so you have a little bit of coverage here. These all have these little clips. The outer shell has these bungee cord loops, and you've got 3 connection points on either side, helping you have somewhat of a bathroom floor set up there. So adds a little bit of comfort, adds a little bit of dryness, and will help from keeping a lot of dust and stuff come in. Obviously, I brought in a lot of it on my way in, setting up. It's pretty dry up here, but I think it would limit the amount of stuff that gets blown in just through the night and all that breeze. So overall, it's a pretty comfortable setup. They also give you a nice little mesh, little shelf up there, again, for more things you might want to store. But yeah, pretty cozy setup. I'll show you spacing wise. So I'm 6'1", and this is basically the space that I would take up. And I mean, I still got plenty of room. You know, I could move far more to the center. Got plenty of room up here for a pack gear. Another guy over there. We could run our boiler here for coffee in the morning. And you got plenty of space. So this is a 4-man tent, of course, but I think for most guys, you know, you'll be running this in a 2-man configuration, maybe 3, depending on your setup. But I'm really excited this year to use this tent. It's incredibly, incredibly lightweight. It was actually very simple to set up once we kind of figured it out. I think if I had a more level piece of ground, it would be even easier. But it's all really easily to contain, and is nice. So again, the amount of innovation that Peax has put into this thing and thoughtfulness that Peax has put into this is pretty impressive. And I'm excited to actually get it in the field this fall.